already pushed.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I'm ahead of you. The fading went away. It's all blue. It's not as black. It's kind of reddish, but it's reddish all the way from there to there.
Oh, well, that's better.
Got a pint from Sorry, folks. The thing went live without me. We'll still start it in about 15 minutes. Sorry, folks. The thing went live without me. We'll still start it in about 15 minutes. Sorry, folks. There we go. I can still chat with you guys a little early. I still have to go get grain this morning, so I'm going to close. We'll close down about, well, maybe as much as 10 minutes early. Hang on a second. I got to get my spectacles so that I can see what I'm looking at. There you go. All right, I can say good morning to some of you. Ex-Swaggart, first in the door. Danny Thrive. Cheryl, good morning. Thomas Pearson. Sally H. Glad you guys made it in. It says we have 9 watching early. That's pretty cool. Yeah, it says we started 6 minutes ago. Do y'all have any questions? I can answer those. We can do that kind of stuff. Ooh, more people coming in. Oh, by the way, you ought to see Terry's eye. Oh, man. She got a shiner. I mean, a big black eye. We were over at some friend's house, and we actually stayed at their house, and we watched just there for Grandpa and granddaughter while Mom and Dad took a quick time out. You know, got to go on a little break, and that was good. But Terry, they have a big Great Dane, and Terry poked in the cage to put the food in, and he came up as she went down, kabango! She had a black eye, and she got, I mean, it hit and just made a huge, terrible looking black eye. And we're going to have to make up fake stories because, you know, the truth is less believable than a good, well-conducted lie. Arizona Sam, good morning. When you get, come here, look. No, she won't show. There she is hiding in the background. She doesn't want to, of course, she's in her bathrobe, so she'll be over here in a second. Maybe I can get her, you know, when she's all ready to go, she'll show you her black eye. Yeah, there she goes. You know, guys, just a great bit of sage advice for somebody who's been married for almost 46 years now, coming up here in a few months. And I can give you one great piece of advice. The best way to tell your wife, I love you, is right after you tell her those first 3 important words, here's your coffee. That is more powerful. Headbutt by a Great Dane. Yeah, and it doesn't help any that I'm 3/4 Danish because now you could still blame me for it. Thomas Pearson, good morning. Kathy O, good morning. Yeah, we kind of started early because the YouTube thing, as soon as I set up the channel to go live, it normally has a button to say go live. Well, it went live right away, so it triggered immediately. So, like I said earlier, it's a good thing I'm the same person on or off camera. Yeah, I'm hiding behind the wall, yeah. All right. Well, Roscoe, he's at his position. He's going to be my sidekick today. We drive 100 miles one way to go get our month supply of grain. And you know what? We buy premium, it's called Show Goat. It's premium goat feed, milled fresh. We're buying it actually from the grain mill. And it is cheaper for me to go buy a month's supply of grain and drive 200 miles round trip, even counting the fuel. Not only is it supremely better feed than what we get from Tractor Supply, but it's cheaper, even counting the fuel. So, yeah. No, Danny. Yeah, that would be weird. Yeah, it's starting on its own and I'm gone to go get grain. Nah, not that. Yeah, thankfully that wouldn't happen. Half an hour of dead air, right? Pepper Leah, good morning. You're not late. Actually, you're 10 minutes early, according to this. But YouTube started on its own. So, you can't do anything but shut it down and cancel it. You can't just put it on hold and let it start on time, even though it was scheduled to start at 9:30. It started immediately. Maybe they're doing more undocumented features. That's what happens. That's the best way you can call a mistake. We used to call programming errors undocumented features. Well, actually, we need 900 pounds of feed will last us 1 month. And that's at about $22.50 a bag for a 75-pound bag. And we need 12 of them. And that will get us by 1 month. And you say, well, why don't you buy twice that much? That way you wouldn't have to go but every 2 months. It's fresh feed and it has a higher moisture content. So it won't last it won't last more than a month. It's stretching it to go that far. And in fact, during the heat of summer, I may have to store this grain in, we have an air-conditioned storeroom as well. Welcome to Texas. And that would be perhaps where we have to store some of the grain to get through the heat of summer and actually continue to go a whole month. Yep, we are starting early, Ruth. It wasn't, yeah, like I said early, YouTube kicked off and started it immediately as soon as I set it up. So, oh well. Yeah, yeah, Kathy. What? Roscoe sleeping. It might get better hits than my channel, right? Well, I averted that sneeze. Well, oxidizer would actually cause the stuff to oxidize more quickly, but I don't want to add any chemicals. I want it to be pure and fresh. So, thank you, Gesundheit. By the way, you know what Gesundheit means? It's German. It means good health to you. Thank you. I need the blessings. So, yeah, we may start here in just a minute because that'll start us 5 minutes early and it'll help because I may have to close 10 minutes early. So, actually, why don't we just start now? Because we are looking at sort of a replay. Jesus is Jesus has been doing some pretty amazing things. He healed a whole bunch of people, and he saw, we just covered the deaf and dumb man, the man who could not speak, he could not hear. And then Jesus healed him, and not only could he hear, but he could also speak, and he could understand what he heard. And he had never heard anything up to that point, but now he can hear clearly, and he knows what the words mean. Now that's not just imparting healing, but imparting the basic knowledge about it. Yeah, could be. Get on the road safely. I have to take Terry to her clients first. She is she's an RN trained care nurse, so she watches over people's health and takes care of them during the day, and then it's only about 3.5 hours a day, and it's only 4 days a week, so it works. Anyway, so Jesus had just caused this deaf and dumb man to hear clearly and to be able to speak clearly, and that is, people were all amazed. You have to realize Jesus, he raised the dead, he cast demons out, he healed the sick, he caused the lame to walk. These people have been witnessing miracle after miracle everywhere Jesus went. He has been healing and doing these incredible miracles. There were times where Jesus had to just get away to a desert place and take his disciples away because people didn't want to hear anything. They just wanted to have more miracles. They just brought more and more and more people to his side. And he kept telling them, don't tell everybody what's going on. And yeah, that didn't work. They told anyway. And his fame went out everywhere. But the fame was not, you ought to hear the words of the Prince of Peace. You ought to see a man who forgave me all my sin. It is, come see a man who can take care of anyone who's sick, anyone who's lame, anyone who's blind. They can be healed. And everybody, anybody who hears about it comes running with some physical need, and they're missing the point that they have a more important spiritual need. Because if you heal the physical, you're still going to die. You have a spiritual need that needs to be addressed, and that's an eternal need. People weren't catching that at all. They were just saying, hey, run to the tent. We're going to have a healing service, So we're in Matthew chapter 15, verse 32. Then Jesus called his disciples unto him and said, I have compassion on the multitude, because they continue with me now 3 days. They had been following Jesus for 3 days and have nothing to eat, and I will not send them away fasting. Now, these people knew how to fast. They knew that, they were accustomed to, they were accustomed to poverty. They were under Roman rule, and they knew what hard times were, and they had to pay all of the customs and duties and taxes of the Romans. It really made things pretty tough as far as inflation is concerned. Their money didn't go so far because all you earned would basically cover your expenses. Everything else went to Rome, and they were very used to tough times. And so the people who grow the food, they say, my money, a lot of my money is going to Rome, so I have to make more money on the food I sell, so the prices go up. And then the people who buy it, they, everywhere they go, they have to work harder and work longer and ask for more wages in order to get enough to eat because the prices go up. And so the value of the money goes down, which means starts the whole cycle again, endless cycles of inflation. And do we know what that's like? Yeah, it's going on right now, right? But they are continuing with Jesus for 3 days, and they have no food now. And it's a long trip back home. Some of these people came a long distance to get to where Jesus was. And it's going to be a long travel home, and they don't have any food. And there were women and children there too. So Jesus had compassion on the multitude, because they continue with me now 3 days and have nothing to eat, and I will not send them away fasting, lest they faint in the way. And Jesus said, look, we're gonna feed these people. By the way, how much food do you have? Guess that's next. And his disciples said unto him, when should we have so much bread in the wilderness as to fill so great a multitude? How are we going to feed all these? The pizza delivery doesn't happen out here. We don't have this much bread. We're talking about, we're out in the middle of nowhere. We're not near a city. We can't even buy the bread to feed them. And there's no delivery. And the Uber isn't working. And the DoorDash isn't delivering food, and we can't have pizza delivery, and there's nothing out here. We're in the middle of nowhere. And Jesus saith unto them, how many loaves have ye? What do you got? And they said, 7. 7 loaves. And we're not talking about great big loaves. We're talking about, they made their loaves rather small. They were like what you could eat in a meal. And a few little fishes. Now, when I was in the Philippines, I traveled out into the areas where furniture and things were made. I was on a guided tour, a private guided tour. The businessman that sold all these things took me with him, and I got a cool visit. I saw how rattan furniture was made. I saw how all of these things were made. It was amazing. And when it came lunchtime, he said, sit down with us, have food. Well, they had the orange rice, and they had something that looked like what we would call spinach, only instead of it being green, it was the flowers that were cooked. And they were red and orange and purple, and it was beautiful. And then they had the little fish. And the little fish, they were salted and cooked, and they didn't bother, like we would fillet the fish, and these are little fish. They don't have a whole lot of meat on them. You can't really fillet them out. If you did, what got left on the bone would be most of the fish. I mean, it's just not that much on there. So what they did was they cooked, they did gut them, but the head was on them, and they just cooked the fish just like they were. And what you did was, the first thing you do is slide off the skin, because when it's cooked, the skin slides right off. And then you just, by the way, no utensils. You're eating, you wash your hands and eat with your hands. Your hands are your utensils. And then you just reach out and push down and slide back, and all the meat would slide right off the bone. But there was only maybe 1 bite per side of these little fish. But they were really good. And that's kind of what's going on here. They're not very big fishes. They're not, not big old salmon or cod or tuna or anything like that. These are little fishes. So they said, verse 35, and he commanded the multitude to sit down on the ground. Wait a minute, Jesus, we just told you we only got 7 loaves and a few small fishes, and you're already going into serving mode? And he took the 7 loaves and the fishes, and he gave thanks. He gave thanks for what little they had, and brake them, and gave to his disciples, and the disciples to the multitude. And they did all eat. You know what? Without a miracle, for everybody to get a crumb would be pretty good. We're talking 4,000 crumbs. And were filled. And they took up of the broken meat that was left. Now that means the fish and the bread fragments that were remaining. 7 baskets full. Now, here's something too. I want you to understand this. We get ideas we get pictures in our mind that are usually originated from a coloring book we saw in Sunday school. And those coloring books are just so wrong. We get first impressions to children through coloring books. Shouldn't those coloring books be a little more accurate? Instead, we see a cutesy little boat this big with Noah almost as big as the boat, and a giraffe's head sticking out, and a hippopotamus looking over the rail, and there isn't room for two of them, much less all that there are. And we impress our children that Noah's Ark was so small. And then we see pictures of the disciples in a boat out in the middle of the stormy sea. And the boat isn't much bigger than a rowboat. And the tiny little sail sticking up there, tiny little bed sheet hanging on a pole. And we're supposed to think that's the boat that they went out into, something like the Great Lakes during the middle of a storm. Have you ever seen a storm in the Great Lakes? We're talking about very large cargo ships that have sunk in storms on the Great Lakes. And the Sea of Tiberias is the same, the Sea of Galilee, the same thing. It's a freshwater, large body of water that is many miles across, and you're not going to cross that thing in a rowboat. But all of the pictures we've seen are just a little bitty tiny boat, a dinghy with a sail on it, and we get the idea that that's the boat. Well, how about these baskets? How big would they be? And where did they get 12 baskets? Or 7 baskets full? Where did they get the baskets? And how big were those baskets? Why would they have baskets with them? Oh, let's go out into the wilderness. Hey, everybody carry a couple baskets. We might need these. We're not talking about Easter baskets here. We're talking about large containers, large ones, probably like big as our galvanized trash cans, that big of a basket. And why would they have those? Because when they traveled with everything they owned. When they were following Jesus, they had all of their gear with them. They had to have, think about it. If you're going to travel for days out in the wilderness, you're going to need some water. You're going to need some food. You're going to need some change of clothes, aren't you? Something. You're going to need some basic essentials to keep yourself clean and to take care of yourself while you're out there. They didn't just walk around with what they had on and not go. When we go camping, we're actually looking for a roof rack for our small SUV because we need to carry more stuff. I realize we carry more stuff than we need, but 12 disciples plus Jesus on a journey like that, and you don't think they're going to bring some provision with them? We already know they had a bag that kept money for the whole 12. And everybody had roles, jobs to do. Judas was the keeper of the money. Great choice. And, there was more to do. We're not told all of the details, and these are details we don't have to know, but you better assume that when they traveled, they had more than just what was in their pockets. They, no doubt, had maybe a couple of donkeys, but they managed to come up with 7 baskets. And why would they have these baskets? They were the saddlebags. They were what held all the rest of their stuff. And these were not little baskets, they were big. Remember Paul, when there was a big riot in town and they were seeking to kill him, at his first preaching service, by the way, what did they do? They let him down the wall in a basket. So these are a basket, probably the same size. The baskets were used to hold their stuff. And the baskets were pretty strong and large. And big enough you could probably put a person in it. Kind of like the basket they dropped Paul down or lowered Paul down the wall in. And so here, these disciples just managed to have 7 baskets. Well, where did they get them? They emptied out all their stuff, and now we've got 7 baskets to pick up all these fragments because there's a lot of them. And they had 7 baskets full of the fragments of the bread that started off as 7 small loaves. So pretty amazing. Probably kind of dirty baskets too. I don't know, depends on how much dirty laundry was in there. And they may have slept in tents. Yes, very much, very possible. What if it rained, you know? A lot of times travelers they would sleep in their outer robe and it would cover themselves up with that. But if it's raining, that isn't going to be too much. That's not going to be a whole lot of fun. So, they picked up 7 baskets full. And if you read Acts chapter 9, it's 24 and 25, talks about letting Paul down the wall in a basket. Probably similar sized baskets. And they that did eat were 4,000 men, beside women and children. We may be up close to 10,000 again. So this is a very similar miracle than what was done before. Very, very amazing. And he sent away the multitude, and here's it again, and got into a tiny little rowboat with all of his disciples, pretty much overloaded, and set off across the sea. Yeah, you're gonna get me into a little rowboat. I don't care if it's a little 25-foot long rowboat with multiple oar stations and a single mast. I wouldn't get into that to cross Lake Michigan. Would you? A place where storms pop up in an instant? That's a mighty little boat for 13 men. No, they got into a ship, it says. And he sent away the multitude and took ship and came to the coast of Magdala. So we're talking about, they went a long distance. This isn't okay, we're going to row right over there to that spot on the shore. You couldn't see the other shore from the side they left. They had to take off across the sea, and the Sea of Galilee. It's a big sea. And shipping around there, they, just like today, they had cargo shipping, and they took passengers, and they all got on. Oh, by the way, they had to have room for their 7 baskets and probably their beasts of burden, their donkeys, that they used to haul all that stuff and all their gear. And you're not going to be doing that in a rowboat. We're talking about a pretty good sized ship. And yes, they had those back then. It's very commonly known. What probably didn't have were the little dinghies that we see in all of our coloring books that we give to our children in Sunday school. Anyway, we will take a look at the next miracle tomorrow, but we're just about out of time. We're actually a little early, but we started early. Yeah, we greatly misunderstand what things are like in Bible times here. We underestimate the size of things, and that the realistic expectations of what that world was like. Terry? Mm-mm. No? Mm-mm. She won't show you. I have a picture. I may post a picture of her shiner, but let me tell you something. It's a beaut. She really got popped. And she's not real proud of showing off her shiner. But a grade school boy or a junior high school kid, oh man, hey, with pride goes to school showing off his shiner. When a lady gets a shiner, nah, they kind of hide it. and she's not even putting on makeup, because when you put on makeup, you have to take it off, and taking it off is going to hurt worse than putting it on. Leah, I haven't seen your email. Not yet. So, yeah, Terry got a big black eye. Um, yeah, I talked about it earlier, Ruth, but you came in a little late. But Terry and I stayed with one of her clients over a couple of days so that this is grandpa and granddaughter, so that mom and dad could go get away for a couple of days. They had an opportunity. They went and paid Terry for her and I both to stay there and kind of manage the house. We had a great time. Angelina, or no, Annalise is the 10-year-old granddaughter's name. She is wicked smart. I think she's an adult posing in a 10-year-old's body. She's way beyond her years. But anyway, we had a great time. They have a Great Dane, and Mac, he's a monster. He's huge. He thinks he's a lap dog. He's really more of a lap horse. He will walk by the couch and then just flop over in your.
See that or not?
Yeah, I don't know if you can see this, but okay. There is Mac with his head on my lap. Let me see if I got this right. I think. Yeah. That's him with his head on me, laying his head on my chest, okay? He is huge. And he just walks by and then flops over and he's all over you. You're pinned. He's huge. And he was coming up as Terry was coming down to put her food in, and he moved really quick and whopped her one right in the eye. And it swelled up. Boy, by the next day, it was black and blue. It's only just now starting to turn more blue than black and starting to dissipate, but it's a beaut of a shiner. And if she allows me, I may show the picture. She's saying no right now, but I may show you the picture later if I can talk her into letting me show it. So it was a beaut of a black eye. And she got whopped by, yeah, it was badly swollen, but it didn't close her eye. How much does that head weigh? I don't know. It wasn't light, let me tell you. Yeah, big dogs can throw a big punch. Yep.
It's Marmaduke.
He's Marmaduke. Yep. And it's so funny because, like I said, he will just walk by the couch. And you know how a cat will just walk up to a certain part and then flop over? Well, he'll do that walking by the couch. And when he flops over, he's all over your lap. I mean, he just pins you immediately. So, yeah, he's kind of crazy. He's a great, big, monstrous, lovable dog. So Mac he's pretty cool. All right, well, let's close in prayer. And yeah, Melissa, you're right. You name him Bam Bam. He was certainly a Bam Bam that day. And it's going down. She's recovering, but we go into if we go to Walmart or if we go to the grocery store, you wonder how many people are thinking she's a victim of domestic abuse, but it didn't happen. She was hit by a Great Dane, but not me. I'm 3/4 Danish. He's all Danish. He's a Great Dane. So, odd. You got to make up a fake story because the truth is just too hard to believe. So, he's a Mack truck. Yep, he is that. Hey, let's close in prayer. Father, we praise you for your goodness, your love for us. That people will see you tomorrow. People will be so grateful for food. Bye-bye.